Welcome to BrotoGP. This is episode number 110. I can't believe we've been going this long. We are almost about to the end of the... Damn it. We are almost about to the end of the 2018 season, but we had Sepang just go down, so we're going to cover that one. We got a quick race recap going here, and then we're going to get into some hard-hitting topics about just kind of generalizing about motorcycle racing in general. As you know, the race was
about it in general is the most generally way that you could generalize this episode.
Generally. All right, let's get going.
General, we will talk about the race in a general fashion, and we will generalize greater themes of motorcycling in general.
I actually didn't even hear myself say that, so thank you for calling so much attention to it, Kev. Oh, man, here we go.
Rob is pointing at me, which means that it's time to start the episode. Rob, being the general of BrotoGP, generally in charge of the generally day-to-day generalities that make BrotoGP.
I feel like we should add generalization to the list of things that we always talk about, like speculation and wait, what was the other one?
And fabrication.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And of course, Simpsons quotes and maybe an occasional cat reference and a few other things.
I love the Simpsons so much because Norton TV shows nowadays suck. And that's going to be a reoccurring general theme of this episode. Shit sucks. If there's one thing South Park has taught me, this goes out to Kyle and Hannah. If there's one thing South Park has taught me, their favorite show, is that caring about stuff is totally lame.
Oh, man. Yeah, we'll get to some South Park references.
Okay, so the general of BrotoGP, Rob, is above me. And above and to my left is... What would you be? You actually started this fucking thing.
I did. So.
It was Dennis's general idea to start a podcast. And he thought for some reason that I would be someone that would be good to be on the show. What a mistake that was.
Total mistake.
Totally mistake, yeah.
So is he like the admiral or the commander-in-chief?
Yes, he's the admiral.
Yeah.
He's the admiral. God damn.
The admirable admiral.
He's admirable admiral, and Rob is the general in charge of generalities.
You can't alliterate that much. Even two words back to back just triggers you, Kev.
One of my favorite things about the call and attention to the alliteration is that I have received so many messages or comments about how we've ruined the show for everyone because none of them actually noticed until we pointed out, and now you can't unhear it.
That is true. It's completely impossible.
Fuck, if Rob is the general and Dennis is the admiral, yours truly, Kevin, is the what?
The private?
I don't know.
Oh, fuck. Rob, always talking about my privates. Get your mind out of the gutter, Rob.
Kevin is BrotoGP's very private part.
Mm-hmm. This is correct.
The private member of BrotoGP.
Correct.
Speaking of non-private things, this episode, of course, is brought to you by Riders Law. If you ever find
law abide wholly and truly by client-lawyer confidentiality. Everything they do is private.
That's true. That's a good point.
Exactly.
And if you find that you need some legal help, especially in the state of California, please give Riders Law a call. Their banner is right behind me. It's bigger now because I changed the layout, and I will duck so you can see the letters a little bit better. And that's Riders Law with a Z.
Specific questions about an accident or just general questions?
He's never going to let it go. Yes, if you have any general questions or specific questions about anything that you may need legal help for, please give Riders Law a call. They will take care of you. Cy and lawyer Rob are amazing lawyers. They're here in Southern California, and they do service the entire state of California. And, check them out. Please keep our podcast going and support their law office and support motorcycle racing in general.
Nice.
But all right, so let's talk about some specifics first before we move on to generalization. The Malaysian round at Sepang just happened, and we had some tension building the whole time until almost nearly the end of the race.
Right.
So I'm sure as you already watched, Valentino Rossi kind of slid the rear out in the first corner and crashed out of the lead. He seemed to he tried to pull a Jorge Lorenzo, a classic Jorge Lorenzo type finish in MotoGP. And it's actually not something that we've seen out of him in a very long time. I think even Jorge commented on Twitter that he had never seen Rossi so consistent. They showed his lap times, and the decimal point was 0.0, 0.0, 0.0, 0.1, then 0.9 a little bit faster, 0.0, 0.0 the entire time. And we don't normally see that out of him. We also don't normally see that now or today in the Michelin era of MotoGP. Generally, we have slower laps in the beginning. They kind of build. And so what do you guys think about that? I mean, did Rossi maybe just go like a tenth of a second too fast every single lap, and he lost a little bit of rear grip? What stood out for you about this race and his performance?
Dennis.
I think, generally speaking, what I like to point out is maybe because he's not known for doing that, that's a new territory for him, that he doesn't quite have the handle on it yet, that, he doesn't have the experience to keep it up the whole way.
The most experienced guy on the grid doesn't have the experience. Let me tell you about something. There's a point where you are too experienced and there's too many years where keeping it up actually becomes a problem.
They make pills for that, though.
I wouldn't know personally, but I'm just saying. I think I would know personally. If y'all remember the episode where I described a doctor prescribing me like 100 pills of Cialis, that was a fun episode. So Dennis's thesis of Rossi in general not having enough experience is very funny to me.
More like it's new territory. Okay.
I mean, here's the thing. He knew Marquez was behind him. Marquez was closing the gap. We all saw it. They spoke endlessly about it. This has come down to what I've said about Marquez for a while, is that he built up enough dangerous passes, enough sketchy moves, enough contact. He built up enough that he has like preeminent. He's putting fear, worry, and distraction into riders' heads before ever having to do anything. Like, he invested 2 or 3 years in psychological warfare, and now he doesn't have to do it. And 3/4 of the grid are worried about it. The Rossi was running an incredibly consistent pace the entire time, and then suddenly just makes a mistake the moment Marquez starts pressuring, because he knows that they have last lap crashes, they have problems. I mean, it was literally Sepang. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that like the most notorious event in modern MotoGP history took place.
I love how if I search on Google Images for Rossi Sepang crash, nothing from 2018 comes up, and it's from the Rossi Marquez incident in previous years.
Right.
Like, it's still everywhere. But I don't know, Kev. I mean, you say that he crashed right when the pressure was applied, and I don't exactly agree with that, because there was effectively like 5 laps before that where Marquez was coming on a tenth of a second a lap. The pressure had been there for a while. I am almost going to go with Dennis on this one, because it really looked like when Rossi went down that he was surprised. There was the crash was very sudden. The rear tire slid out, which is not a type of crash that we see very often when the bikes are at full lean angle. Like, most of the time, the front tucks away when they get off the brakes, or the front tucks because they've overloaded it while they're still on the brakes. The rear going is something that doesn't happen very often. And it's almost like if you watch, we got to watch plenty of slow motion too. Like, it was just there was no attempt to save, right? It wasn't like Marquez's front end slides where he can instantly put the elbow and the knee out and try and push the bike up. Like, the second Rossi lost a little bit of traction on the rear tire, he was down.
Done.
He was gone. Yeah. So I'm not really. I don't think I can agree with you on that one. That the pressure is what caused Rossi to make that mistake.
I mean, here's the thing. It's been so long since he's won. Mavericks won. His last race that he led, he crashed out famously last year. We're starting to get to the end of the line for the old horse, and as much as it pains all of us to see it, and I think that at one point you're kind of looking for that last win or that last hurrah, that last dominant thing. To me, it just seemed like he crashed out, and I was like, of course he did. Right. Like, of course he did. Like, that's how I felt. Like, God damn it. Of course he did. Because it's just, the time has passed. It's done. Like, it's over. It's done. Like, the time has passed. The idea of him being the best in the world is gone. And as much as the BrotoGP Army Facebook page complains I'm being a super downer with things, it's just like, we all wanted him to win because we just want to go back to that time when it was awesome when he won, and MotoGP seemed so much more like innocent and fun and like happy-go-lucky and didn't have so much weight on it, and it didn't have so much like social media bitching on it. And it's like, but that's just not the world that is now. Like Marquez, for all the flaws, is motorcycle racing in 2015, the ultimate manufactured brand exercise. And as much as on November 6th, a Tuesday, we all wanted a blue wave to come on Sunday, didn't happen Sunday. It might have happened tonight, but Rob won't let me talk about it. But
for the record, for the record, I know in the last episode we talked about Rossi's downward slide and Pedrosa. He's still not Pedrosa. I still think there's still enough in Rossi, one way or another, to pull out a win. This is not rock bottom for him. Far from it. Rock bottom was Ducati, and he managed to come back from that and still get a race win. I still think Rossi has a win in him.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Dennis. It's just the problem is we want so much more, right? We're looking back on previous eras of him, and we want him to fight for the title. Like, I mean, Kev had him pegged for second in the championship just because he's Rossi, and now that literally can't happen. He's 25 points behind Dovizioso, and Dovizioso has more wins. So even if Rossi wins at Valencia and Dovi crashes out, he can't be second in the championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm glad you brought up Pedrosa though. Let's talk about him for a split second.
About the most done ever.
Yeah. So final thoughts on Rossi there, Kev, before we move on a little bit.
I mean, it just goes to the broader thing. It's like we all want to hold on to that like joy of him doing it one last time. You know what I mean? Like I remember in 2013 when he came back to Yamaha and someone was like, he's never going to win a race. Like 2010.
Not someone.
Hold on,
a lot of people.
Yeah. But a certain someone who on barf can eat a fucking dick. Yeah, and like 8 people get that, and all of you laughed. Like in 2010, he broke his leg, and there was people on the online and forever, and everyone said he's never gonna be the same Rossi ever again. He's never gonna be the same. And he comes back, he wins spectacularly, fights for the title eventually. He battles Jorge in Motegi and all this stuff, and then he goes to Ducati, and it's terrible. He comes back, he gets that one win, and then he's able to win multiple races. Like it's like I said before, how many Phoenix from the Ashes, dude, can this guy have? At some point, your cat's 9 lives are up, and the dude's in racing for 20 years. You know, his fucking younger brother is winning races, and his younger brother, who's clearly actually his love child, like that's not his brother, that's his son. We all know that. It's clearly obvious, like that's his son, but we always don't talk about it, right? And that also Rossi is Steve McQueen's love child. That is a controversy, a conspiracy theory that I'm getting more on. The more that I
feel like you've taken over Ev's place as the conspiracy theorist for these for these podcast episodes.
It's just like when he crashed, I'm like, fuck. And what I said was I had like a bunch of messages. People text me, like my man Remy texted me, a bunch of friends and stuff like that. It's like people are now like, I hate being emotionally invested in this sport. Like, and it's like, because you're emotionally invested in this guy that you grew up with. You're emotionally invested in this, because like most of us and our listeners are like millennials, or maybe like we're in our mid 30s or late 30s, maybe early 40s based on like our demographics, or you have some people in your late 20s and stuff. But like a lot of us came into MotoGP and you knew Rossi. and that was the guy. And he seemed so genuine and real, and the story was so interesting, and you came up with it. And to sort of watch the end of that story take place, and you're like, dang.
We rode the VR46 wave, and now it's kind of like finishing off the break, and there's nothing left there.
And there's nothing new, Like imagine if Iannone was on Repsol Honda and was kicking ass and fighting for the title. It'd be like so fresh and new. It'd be like, what the fuck? The like sex god of the world is like winning races and bringing condoms in his bag, and he just has herpes on his lip and he owns it, and he's just posting constant like shirtless pictures and impregnating dudes because he's like that fucking virile. But like you'd be like, oh, this is sick, but it's like there's no new story at all. Like the Rossi story is ended, but a new story of like a new interesting personality story just hasn't taken over. All those people and all those characters are not the best in the world.
It's funny that you brought up Iannone. So in me watching the race, I slapped the couch and screamed out for 2 incidents.
I slapped the couch and screamed. Title of Rob's sex tape.
The first one was Iannone going down with what Dennis calls a
Iannone going down. Mistake. Title of Rob's sex tape. He fucking wishes. He wishes.
And then the second incident was of course Rossi crashing out. I mean, the disappointment of Iannone crashing was not unexpected, and unfortunately neither was the Rossi incident. Just like you said, right? It was at the end of it. It was like, oh, of course that happened. Of course. Yeah. I was actually more surprised at Danny Pedrosa's performance for the entire race than I was at Rossi crashing out, because it's just something had to ruin the ambiance for me for watching that race. Because I was like, in the beginning I was kind of downtrodden a little bit, like just expecting Rossi to lose grip on the rear tire with maybe 8 laps to go, and he would just drop back and probably finish 4th. But then he was still out there. He was still pulling the Jorge Lorenzo and cutting the same exact pace. Like he responded to Marquez's pressure a little bit and dropped back into the lower second of his lap times. And I the tension was building. It just kept building, and those are the MotoGP races that we haven't seen frequently. I mean, even there was no tension whatsoever at Phillip Island with Maverick out front. He was able to just accomplish it, but there was tension building in this one that wasn't related to people battling constantly, and then it just released all in the worst possible way. Do it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go
ahead.
I'm gonna hold that one in.
Title of Everett's sex tape right there.
Yes, I'm gonna. Oh no! Oh no!
Oh man! All right, no. Moving on to Danny.
I mean, it's just I don't want to sound like a fucking Debbie Downer, but it was like either he is leading the race, and I'm like, yeah, he's not gonna win. He's not gonna win. The Yamaha sucks. He's hella old. He hasn't shown me anything. It's just
it would have made it so much sweeter though if he did, right? That's what we're looking for now. Like you already said, the Marquez story is the same old shit, right? We want something in GP that's unexpected, and Rossi winning would have been it would have been more unexpected than Maverick winning in Phillip Island.
Yes, correct.
But hypotheticals, we can all dream,
right?
I don't know. I'm torn. I'm trying to imagine if he actually won, would I have been surprised by that? And I only say that because personally, I've always said this about Rossi, where, I do believe he's the greatest of all time. But on the flip side to that is there's really nothing he can do that would surprise me anymore. Because even if he had won, I would just think, well, that's Rossi. That's what he does. He pulls something out of the bag.
The thing that he would do to surprise me is the thing I'm watching happening now, which is to just fade away. That's the ending.
Fuck. You really are being a Debbie Downer.
I'm sorry, man, but it's true, right?
Like an Italian Deborah Downer.
The worst ending to the story is to just like that's all of our worst nightmares. It's like all of our worst, you don't gotta
rub it in, bro.
I know, but it's the fade away. It's the just why can't Rossi be the one guy that time doesn't get? You know what I mean? Fuck time. You've gotten all 12 billion humans that have ever lived. Can't you just let one guy go slip through?
He kind of already did though.
Right, like if you ever read the comic books, The Sandman, there's a character where a guy claims the only reason you die or get old is because you allow yourself to, and he explains this to one of this is weirdly esoteric, but he explains it to one of the gods of the universe. So the god says, cool, then I just won't let you die. And he lets one guy decides he doesn't age, he doesn't die, and he just lives forever. And it's all like can't you just let one guy? And can it be the one guy who's the eternal kid at heart? Fuck, man. Why you gotta kill us all?
I mean, I've long thought of what is the saying? If you don't use it, you lose it. And I mean, Rossi and all the old guys that climb Mount Everest and a bunch of other people are classic examples of that.
Right.
But there's a limit.
Yes, it reaches everyone, and it's like Dennis said, right? I'm always expecting a surprise or a new thing, but how many times can he readapt? He wins on 2 strokes, and then he goes to the 4 strokes and he wins, and then he switches to Yamaha and he adapts and wins, and then he has a little lull, and then he switches to the 800s and he adapts and he wins, and he switches to Bridgestones, wins the title, switches to 1000s and wins. How many times can you relearn something? You know what I mean? How many times can you learn a new skill and have that new skill be at the 0.5% of people in the world? How many times can you do that? You know what I mean? There's only so many times you can, you shouldn't even be able to do it once, right? Casey Stoner did it once. He was the best 800cc era rider. Right? He did it once. Casey Stoner, one of the best in the world, right behind Dennis, right? Let's see, to my left, right? So Casey Stoner.
He's right there.
Casey Stoner, one of the best in the world, right? One of the best in the world.
Yeah.
He did it once. He won 2 titles, but he did it on one style of bike. And look what happened. They switched to 1000. He loses to Lorenzo. And that's kind of the thing that we all complain about how Marquez is he's not doing any of that. There's no new story. He just rides 1000cc Repsol Honda. He's the number 1 rider, and he wins because everyone else all fucking season decides they want to crash out of the lead, or they want to not battle him, or they, excuse me, I'm burping here, but they want to it's fucking Dovey at the beginning of the year. Rob talked about losing the bone or losing interest. The coolest part of the whole season is the flyaways, right? It's 3 back-to-back, travel around the world. They're prime time if you're in the U.S. It's crazy. It's rabid fans. It's Phillip Island, the best track in the world. And it's Malaysia, the craziest, best fans in the world, right? And it's it's Thailand and it's Japan. It's all over. But they put it at the end of the season when none of it fucking matters anymore. Because there's so many races.
I almost have a problem with the flyaways now because not only have we made them irrelevant by having the championship already finished, like you just said, but they've also just I feel like the effort required to accomplish that many races back to back with all the travel is taking its toll on the riders in a way that's causing them to crash, and it's causing a lot of injuries. I mean, we lost Jorge before the flyaways, but he tried to come back and it hasn't worked out. Not before the flyaways, he crashed in Thailand, but we lost Cal Crutchlow now, right? Other people have had bad crashes and it might have affected their performance. It's just I know we can't spread them out because the logistics would just be impossible, but it's just 4 of them now here at the end is ridiculous.
Yeah, they feel meaningless and they feel like they don't carry weight. They used to feel like kind of the playoffs in the final showdown, but now with how many races there are, it feels like they've done everything to make sure the European rounds are the ones that matter. They do the weird initial flyaway rounds in the beginning. We don't really call them that, but they do Qatar and Argentina and Coda. They do a bunch of rounds that feel irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And then they do the European block. And even though Thailand, Sepang, these are the growth markets and these are the markets where shit should matter, they stick them in a place that tends to it feel like with 18 races, the season's so long. Like, fuck, I love MotoGP. I do a podcast that we release for free. I have social media accounts that I run, all this. And even I'm like, fuck, man, this season's fucking long, dog.
Yeah,
you know, 2 years ago that I was live streaming Sepang and Phillip Island on my Facebook page because we were so jacked about it. And now, like, everyone's like, I don't know, man. Does Iannone want to bone, like, chicks, or what's the deal? Like, you know?
Which would be a good, interesting news story.
Yes.
Or maybe it's the same old story and he just needs to tell
literally
us.
The most interesting thing that happened all weekend was in the press conference. Iannone just straight said, I bring this, this, and this, and a condom. And I'm like, damn, a condom? Condoms are for sailors, baby.
It's because he's still riding for Suzuki and doesn't have a contract with him next year.
Yes, exactly.
So he felt,
it's also little do you know,
same thing with this.
It's the same condom. He's never opened it. He always tells himself, this is the weekend that I use this thing. This is the weekend that I use it. Imagine how nasty the person has to be for Iannone to be like, I can't raw dog this dog. I cannot do it. I'm going to do it, but fuck. I mean, imagine what in the hell has to be going on downstairs. Man or woman or whatever in the non-binary spectrum that is sex and gender in the human entity. What has to be going on down there where Iannone goes,
I better suit up.
Fuck, right? You know what I mean? Like, I got to wrap it up. I got to do it.
That's a very good point, Kev.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the same reason we also got the Scott Redding kind of implosion too, right? Because he was firmly out at Aprilia and moving over to BSB. And can your new employer get mad at you if you say some shit while wearing the old employer's gear?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Maybe they actually want you to do it. And they're like fucking Iannone, like Aprilia's telling him, like, just talk about being a nasty sexual deviant for the last 2 races. It's going to be great. You know what I mean? Like, but don't talk about that shit when you come to Aprilia.
That's a good idea. Kev, Iannone's new PR manager.
Yes.
Even though I think he's doing a great job all by himself.
He hired his own fucking art photographer to just follow him around and take the sexiest fucking shots. It's so good.
Greatest move
The worst
ever.
thing that hates is he has a friend who just videos him working out. And because of what we've made BrotoGP, if Iannone works out on a video, I know, because I have 63 inbox messages of a sweaty Iannone working out. Thus, I have created. Right.
Oh man! Speaking of sweaty guys working out, is Jorge Lorenzo able to work out yet? I know the answer to this question. I'm just trying to bait you into talking about Jorge.
Man, I don't. Go ahead and answer, Rob. Is he able to work out or not? Or is he spending most of his time getting his hair cut and taking selfies, like through his barber, like the elbow shot through the mirror? He's like, hair on fleek, dog. Like, what is going on with that? Like, I made those basic bitch Jorge memes as a joke, and then he was like, haha, this guy is like funny. I'm just going to do this for real.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Now he can't really work out, though, because he was unable to race in Sepang. His wrist surgery hurt too much. I mean, as it should. I don't even know why he tried. Like, I mean, Ducati had never planned. I think they said this during FP1. They had never planned to have Bautista ride the factory bike this weekend. Essentially, Jorge was going to try, and Pirro was there to back him up should he have to pull out. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, the dude had surgery on his wrist and then tried to ride a MotoGP bike. Like, breaking the collarbone, we know that was possible. He finished the race, but the wrist. Apparently the change of directions were the worst problem for him. I mean, I'm not even that hopeful, or I'm not that optimistic that he's going to be racing at Valencia.
He's going to race at Valencia. He already won his races at Ducati. He knows because he throws mad shade at Neil Hogston when Neil Hogston talks shit. And he's like, why don't you say that shit before I won multiple races, bitch? I mean, Jorge he's done. He's moving to Repsol. He's going to ride. Ducati's going to let him. He's going to, ride the Valencia. What is there to gain at Valencia to ride. There's nothing to gain. But win one more race at Ducati, who cares? Get on, be healthy, and
Well, I
try to
guess
go mark on the same bike.
yeah, but the thing to gain is he actually like races, he scores a few points for Ducati, and then it doesn't look super shady for him to go test the Honda. The
What
following
does he
like
care
2
if it
days
looks
later.
shady?
It's Jorge. We don't know what his ego is doing. Like he might actually care. He just might think that it has to be done that way because it'll look bad upon him.
Right.
I don't know.
Look bad upon him. Okay,
Yeah.
like Methuselah, like it shall look bad upon him. Shall he do such things that exacerbate his ego? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Cheers to that, Kev. Cheers to that. My English I'm talking good tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, he knows speak good. What was that?
All right.
I mean, the only real thing of note for Jorge is that the dude took massive pity on Valentino and was like, hey, before he crashed, he was riding pretty consistent. And I was impressed. Like, that's how you know Valentino is done, when his bitterest rivals take to Twitter to, like, defend him and take pity on him. You know what I mean? The fucking, can you imagine in 2011 or 10 or 9 that Jorge fucking takes to social media to defend Valentino Rossi from the haters and naysayers who say he's done, and be like, he's not done. He looked super good before he crashed. Like, fucking hell. Like, it's so done. It's like fucking, like, some guy at the bar picks a fight with you, you whip his ass, and he keeps getting up and comes back for more. You've knocked him down 5 times, and finally you're like, I don't know, man. You're kind of tough, I guess. Whatever. Like, you want to drink? Like, Jorge is like made peace out of pity, you know? Like,
Wow.
what? It's just terrible.
There was a little bit more peace before that. It seems like problems with Jorge only last like 3 years. Like after that, he just forgets about it and they move on to someone else. I don't think he has really any beef with Jorge anymore. Like all the beef with Rossi now is with Marquez, like, or between Rossi and Marquez. Like no one even gives a shit about beef between Jorge and Valentino Rossi.
Right. Yeah.
But
exactly.
no, let's. Speaking of, okay, so you brought it up. Speaking of beef between Jorge and Rossi, I feel like those were times in GP where we actually cared about the beef, right? Where we that was a stupid thing to say. Wow. Where we actually cared about the drama that happened between the riders. Like if Marc Marquez gets into something with any of the other riders on the grid, even with Dovizioso, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to roll my eyes. It's not, I don't get the same feeling from that as I did from a couple of years ago with the wall going up between Rossi and Jorge,
right,
with a whole bunch of other things. It's like, how have I built up these expectations such that I'm ruining all of this for myself?
It might just be Marquez ruining it for all of us, because like even if you were to have beef with anybody, as far as racing goes, like we all know nobody can take it to him. He's just so massively talented. Like any kind of drama off the track isn't really going to equal to anything on the track against Marquez in the long run.
I mean, it's like for forever, like we knew in the back of our minds that MotoGP was like a big branding exercise, but the sport itself seemed so good and the storylines were good, but it's like it's just reached the in-your-face moment where no one pretends or cares anymore. Like he's the ultimate manufactured rider. He does exactly what they say. He does exactly what's expected. It's like I said, the same thing with his super like manufactured, like, do you want to shake hands bullshit, and as soon as he says no, he knows exactly where the camera is. Like, it's so in your face. He doesn't care. He re-signs with Repsol. I'm just so uninterested because the story's bland, and we just, I mean,
so is the story bland because you're just getting the exact same thing as your expectations? Like you just want Marquez, or you just see Marquez do all these things and know that he's going to do it? Or is it just bland because of all the shit that we're getting on track because no one is able to beat him? Like what's more interesting, the off-track action or the on-track stuff? And what's going to make this series better for you, Kev?
I mean, here's the thing. Like I've been following MotoGP for, 20 years, and I receive far more message, and maybe it's just me and the fans that we've cultivated. Sure, I'm certainly
definitely partly true.
Definitely willing to accept a echo chamber aspect to it, but I receive far more messages, hits, talks. I receive more comments in general on off-track action as opposed to on-track action, because it's like the same thing I said last week. Like, what's going to happen? He's going to be involved in some sort of incident, just like he was in qualifying, but it's not going to change anything. Like, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but it's just like there's nothing. It's like all the people are supposed to challenge him aren't trying. Dovi crashes out a bunch early in the season. Valentino and the Yamaha can never get off the floor. The moment Jorge gets finally able to win races, he hurts himself. It's just like I wouldn't have minded seeing him win, but it's like we were just robbed of that battle once again. We were just robbed of that battle. Like, they've all conceded, and you see like the whole paddock has conceded to him. I've said this before. Like, you look at Suzuki has conceded so hard, they're just throwing everything they have at like an unproven rookie from Moto 2. And you see all this stuff taking place. Like, they're all just trying to sign the next big thing, but all of the people that could fight him or could battle him are all on shitty bikes. And in the main class, we've seen this forever, is that like, what is Repsol Honda doing? They're taking Jorge Lorenzo, not like some hotshot rookie who's going to shake things up, because they don't want to upset the fucking apple cart. You know what I mean?
I mean, you brought up the battle that we didn't get between Rossi and Marquez, and we're still waiting again now for the battle between Maverick and Marc Marquez. Like, even in the last round, it still didn't happen. I feel like we have these expectations that we built for ourselves. We've had the expectation of wanting someone to be able to battle Marquez and wanting times to be as good as they were years ago, where we had people battling it out. And like in a lot of the races, in just specific race incidents, it has happened, right? Dovizioso has taken it to Marquez a good number of times between this year and last year. But it's not the same because we don't get that championship battle. We had things come down to Valencia, and Marquez almost crashed trying to catch Zarco, and still the same thing happened. I feel like the nostalgia of everything that we remember from previous generations and even in previous years is ruining this season for us. And is ruining it. Maybe it didn't ruin last season for me, but now I'm using last season and it's ruining this season.
I mean, that's what thinking of the past does. It like ruins the future, right? And it's the same reason why like the past is always romanticized and futures are always dystopian. It's why, you always, whenever Star Trek being like the lone shining star in dystopian futures where it's like a utopian future. But in general, futuristic things, people and humans have always had a negative view of the future, and we've romanticized the past.
I was just trying to think of something that was actually utopian, that was like in the future, some sort of fiction. And like Black Mirror came into my mind right away, but that is like as dystopian as it gets in every single one of their episodes.
The most utopian thing there ever is Brave New World, and it's so utopian, it's dystopian. Yeah. Everything is perfect. No one has to do anything. The people who work the hardest jobs work the least and get the most of that drug that makes them feel good. And nothing is innovative. Everything is stagnant, and it goes like, you would never drink water from a stagnant pool, and that's what MotoGP feels like to me right now, stagnant. So you look to the past because we romanticize the past. I mean, look at our culture right now. Everything is the past repackaged and resold to you. I just watched the Honest trailer for Incredibles 2, which was the sequel to a kids movie from 15 years ago with the exact same plot, and it made $1 billion. And the major movies are just rehashed comic book stories from 20 years ago. Like Infinity War is just like the story from the comic book from 25, 30 years ago put on a theater. Like everything is, they're making Creed 2 comes out in a week, and it's just Creed's son fighting Ivan Drago's son, and Ivan Drago is in it. And the most interesting part for me is I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is Rocky going to say to Ivan Drago when they meet in the bar? Like, fuck. And like, I don't give a fuck about new movies because the shit is like it's just like 2018 culture is so absolutely capitalistically soulless that we're desperate for anything to think of when it wasn't, and now they're just reselling it to us. And like the nostalgia is to look back and think, man, when it wasn't so in your face soulless.
All right,
You know
so
what I mean? Like,
I've got some examples here of soulless nostalgia.
yeah.
Leon Haslam.
Right.
Kiyonari.
Yeah, they're bringing Kiyonari back because we yearn for the day.
Still going. Marco Melandri. So even a little bit, even though he never fully went away. He was only gone for a year or two. Yeah. The need or the want for Josh Hayes and Ben Spies to come back to Moto America. How many, like every time, even for the poster that Dennis has on his wall right behind him, how many people wanted Casey Stoner to replace Jorge Lorenzo at Phillip Island instead of Alvaro Bautista?
Right. We never talk about who's the young gun who's going to beat Marquez. It's always, well, Stoner could beat him if he came back. You know, like the biggest threat to Marquez's hegemony of MotoGP is like the specter of Casey Stoner.
Ooh, good word in there.
Boom.
Damn.
Yes.
I mean, and that's his position now in GP is he's a ghost. He's firmly said he does not want to come back. Like him and Ducati kind of shit the bed, and it's not going to happen. So everyone stop wishing that Casey Stoner is going to come back. It's not going to happen.
Because he's not, and it's done, and he wouldn't win if he did. But we all yearn for it. It's like you said, a Kiyonari, right? Like HRC's coming back with Rio. Yearning for the days of the wild-haired, crazy, Japanese Superbike riders coming to GP and Superbike and kicking ass and Norifumi and all that. Like those days are so gone. You're bringing back like old horses, old workhorses. It's just like you're retreading them. You look in mixed martial arts and Chuck Liddell is going to fight Tito Ortiz for the third time. Like what is like 50-year-old men? Nowhere in sports do you see like heavy investment building new stars. And it's just, I don't know, man. Even down to stupid things like the undercut with men in like 2018, I have like a basic haircut. It's like a haircut from the 20s. You know what I mean? Like, they're making Gladiator 2, dog. How do you make Gladiator 2?
Are you serious?
And the antagonist and protagonist killed each other at the end of the movie. What is the movie? But they're making it. How many Alien prequels are they gonna make between fucking Prometheus and Covenant, 5 more? Like, everything that we have is just a desperate plea to looking back when shit wasn't fucked. Because left or right, conservative or Republican, political, non-political, everyone looks at the path that things are going on right now and goes, fucking this shit ain't that good, dog. And so we're all just looking back to when it was pretty sweet. You know what I mean?
Speaking of movies, I for the last couple of years, I was just thinking that they ran out of ideas. But it's not that. It's a combination of that a tiny bit. A combination of the fact that novel and literature writers are better than screenwriters. So the screenwriters have to start somewhere. And then exactly what you're saying, right? It's just rehashing is commercially more viable than thinking up a new idea that people have never heard before. Like when I go to a concert, I don't want to hear their new shit. I want to hear their shit that I know already so I can sing along. That's like it's kind of, and if they do have new shit, I want to make sure that I bought the album beforehand so I could learn the shit. So it's already like something that I know. Right.
Like, and if you want to know why we like nostalgia and why we want to hear stuff that we know, I'm getting real esoteric for a second. Have you ever wondered why humans like things that rhyme? Like,
because it reminds you of the word beforehand. I don't know.
No, because it makes you successfully predict the future, which is inherent to Schopenhauer's will, which is that in the end, we are simply willing to exist until we don't. And the uncertainty of knowing the future makes us desperate to know the present and the past. So all we want to do is like look to the past and feel good about it. You want to hear your favorite band play the song that you know just like you know it. You don't want to hear a reimagining of it. You want to hear it just like you know it. And that will make it. That's the same reason everyone complains if they remake a movie, you're going to ruin my childhood with it, right? You're not going to ruin anyone's childhood, but you get angry if someone changes something that you recognize from the past. So Ghostbusters, the redo sequel with the all females is instantly destroyed and buried because people love Ghostbusters so much, even though they die at the end of Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 takes place in hell. And that's why no one remembers the events of Ghostbusters 1. Yeah, I just blew your mind.
Wait, what? Wait, hold on.
So at the end of Ghostbusters 1,
they cross the streams.
They're clearly not to. And then what happens when you cross the streams? It's like all your
the
atoms
whole universe
exploded.
blows up.
Right. So Ghostbusters 2, they're dead and they take place in hell and they're rehashing their hell of being unable to like deal with all the ghosts, which is why no one in New York seems to remember the huge like giant ghost thing that happened. It's why it seems like Ghostbusters 2 is actually another first one. It's because they're dead.
Because Ghostbusters 2 was the purple or the pink slime.
Yes.
And it's the whole city is being attacked by everything. And yeah, there's definitely a disconnect there of like, hey, you don't remember the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man like trying to take
you don't
over the whole
remember
city?
that ghosts are real. Like ghosts are real, and we saved the whole town we saved the capital of the world, so to speak, right? Like New York is called sometimes. We saved the capital of the world from a ghost infestation, and then everyone simultaneously forgot about ghosts. No, they're in their own personal hell where they're again anonymous. They're again not respected for their correct beliefs. They're again marginalized and made fun of for their out-of-the-box thinking, which was correct. And again, they have to prove themselves once more. It's Sisyphus. Sisyphus pushes the boulder all the way up the hill only to watch it roll all the way back down, and that's his hell. And that's what they're reliving in Ghostbusters 2, a Sisyphean like hell where they constantly have to reprove themselves only to have the boulder roll back down the hill.
And this is why Ghostbusters was so good in general, is because they're just playing on plot lines that we already know from classic history. Like, what does everyone say about romantic comedies? Is most of them are just a take on something that Shakespeare wrote.
Right, exactly, right, because no one thinks of anything new, so it's the same fucking movie every single time. But like, so we're all just desperate for a story that we've all grown up with from previous years, which is Rossi the Jester can make something unbelievable happen. Like Dennis said, I'm waiting for him to do the unthinkable. People aren't supposed to regularly do the unthinkable. That's why it's unthinkable, because they're not supposed to be able to do it. Like if you do it once, like Casey Stoner won on the Ducati, that was unthinkable. No one's done it since. No one's going to do it again. Right? Like Valentino Rossi went to Yamaha, switched and won the title, like went to the shitty bike and won the title. It's never going to happen again. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. You can only do the unthinkable so many times. You're supposed to do it once, maybe, and it's a once-in-a-generation event. But the problem is the only guy who could do the unthinkable, the one guy who could go to Suzuki tomorrow and win the title, signed to ride Repsol again for basically the rest of his life because he's been created by them to do one thing, which is kill the one sport that I still love these days.
When you get that loud, Kev, I think you actually break your microphone a little bit. Okay. It takes a little while to come back and bring your volume back up.
My bad.
Stupid Windows.
Fuck that microphone. Fuck Windows. Fuck Bill Gates.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's bring this back to
Fuck Bill and Linda Gates.
Actual motorcycle racing news. If you haven't heard, well, we already knew about Leon Haslam. So that signing took place quite a while ago. Tom Sykes lost his ride to Leon Haslam, which is an interesting take. He's essentially just a holdover signing to bring Razgatlioglu up into Superbike, not next year, but maybe the following year or the year after that. And there's some, duking it out between Kenan Sofoglu, who's like his manager, and maybe Red Bull and Monster and a whole bunch of other crap. That one's not that surprising, but still, because Leon has been competitive in British Superbike, and every time he comes back for a World Superbike ride, he's generally also competitive on a second tier Kawasaki. So we're not that unhappy about it. The news that just came out of the EICMA motorcycle show in Italy is that HRC has taken over Altea. Altea is switching to Hondas, and they have brought Leon Camier because he probably had a contract direct with HRC or direct with Honda, and they've also signed Kiyonari. Kiyonari has been competing in Japanese Superbike. He got 9th in the championship this year. He lost to our favorite Yamaha test rider in MotoGP, handily, who won the title. And Kiyonari's done squat. The last time he has 3 World Superbike wins back in 2007 or something. I have to pull it up right now.
Back when he was like teammates with Toslin.
Yeah, no, it was 2008. He won 3 races. He got 2 podiums in 2009, and then he was out in 2010. And his best finish in he did 2 races in the UK in 2010, and scored 0 points. Like, the dude has had not exactly an amazing career. Like, he spent a bunch of years in British Superbike since then. His best was 2014 when he got 2nd in the championship on a Beamer. He moved back to the Japanese Superbike Championship in 2017 and for 2018 and hasn't done squat. Like, this is classically like they signed someone they knew to maybe help with development. Like, obviously with HRC coming back in, they want a Japanese rider to speed up development because the Japanese engineers can communicate better with the Japanese rider, but there's no other upside. Like, they have younger Japanese riders. Like, hire someone else. Pick a Moto2 Japanese rider. Like, hire someone that has an upside. Take a little bit of risk, get a bigger reward other than signing Kiyonari. It's just, It goes back to everything that you're saying. Like, if Japanese fans follow World Superbike more because Kiyonari is in it, it's just bringing the whole sport down.
Right, but it's the same thing. It's just nakedly saying, quote unquote, like, we want Kiyonari because he'll nostalgically bring in Japanese fans, and the whole sport is actually a big branding exercise, and no one actually cares about winning or losing as long as their brand gets the exposure they want. And it's just like, fuck, man. Like we're talking about like nostalgia and stuff. You know what was announced today? The Spice Girls are reuniting. The Spice Girls, son. I saw Spice World in the theaters when I was a teenager. I'm in my late 30s, dog. Like, fuck. Like,
Kev, you just scored points with Luke on that one. Dennis, I think Luca already assumed that you'd seen Spice World.
Of course I saw Spice Girls. I know this because the moment the Spice Girls reunion was announced, a guy sent me an image of the Spice Girls holding a sign that says, "If you want to be my lover, you've got to be Yanone."
Oh, he wouldn't rap it for that one.
No, exactly.
No, not at all.
And in his defense, neither would I. If Ginger Spice rolled in, sorry, it's not. I'm not turning that down.
I'm a Ginger Spice guy too.
It's Ginger Spice guy,
wow,
exactly.
Wow.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. Totally. Redhead, voluptuous. Oh man.
Hey, we're dangerously close to objectification at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna move on from that. Hey, remember Star Wars? Remember Chewbacca?
Right, and what happened with Star Wars? The moment they tried to do something different, everyone shit all over it, right? Like, I don't know if you like The Last Jedi or not, but the moment they tried to do something different, it was just shit all over. And it's like everyone did was try to complain about it. And the moment that, like, they tried to make slightly different character tropes, the main characters, this whole online movements to destroy it. Like, it's the weird thing. I complain about being resold nostalgia, but no one actually wants change. They just want to live in the past. They just want it, like, it's like you said, Kiyonari and Leon Camier and HRC's coming back. Like, your bike still sucks. Did you see what Ducati fucking released? A V4 with winglets. Ducati released a 16,500 RPM, $80,000 winglet shod V4 with full traction control. And
with 238 horsepower with a race exhaust and like almost follows Euro 4 emission compliance.
Yeah, it still has like 8 charcoal canisters and a muffler, and it's got 240 horsepower, 16,000 RPMs. And Honda's like, well, our bike that got a slipper clutch last month, we're gonna go ahead and put that out. We're gonna put Kianari on it. We're gonna have it be white, red with blue trim, and y'all are gonna love it.
They're gonna love it. I mean, I feel like even BMW released a new bike. Oh yeah, that was the other bit of World Superbike news. BMW has officially signed Tom Sykes and Marcus Reiderberger into SMR. So SMR has moved from BMW to Aprilia and back to BMW, and now they have Sykes. So at least we'll know how good SMR is doing because they have a known entity in Tom Sykes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a pop quiz for you guys if you're up for it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Do it.
If the pop quiz
So if you haven't noticed it, basically for this last half of this episode so far, I've just been sitting here listening, and I can't help but think that between rehashing of movies and hiring older writers back into the grid, the common theme that keeps popping up to me is safe. Like, it's just about making safe decisions.
Yeah, no risk.
Tried and proven. Right. So do you think it's because they did try it with like something like hiring Miller straight out of Moto3 into MotoGP and they got burned by it? Then now they just want to revert back to the complete opposite of that. So, I mean, do you think that's what it could be? It could be
Absolutely
a
not.
contributing factor?
Absolutely not. I think the Miller move was planned in an attempt to essentially keep him from being amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep, I fully agree that the signing of Miller was sabotaging him. I absolutely think that.
And I think that yeah, like, well, so like take Ducati and not signing Pecco directly to the factory team. Like, that's partly because they wanted to not be like Aprilia, and they wanted to uphold Petrucci's contract, because he kind of said, like, his contract almost said that if Jorge vacates the seat, that he's entitled to it. They could have gotten out of it. They could have pulled something not nearly as bad as Aprilia, but with Sam Lowe's. And they could have put Pecco in the seat. Instead, they're going to uphold Petrucci's contract. They signed him into 1 year. They're planning on bringing Pecco later on. So they're kind of in the middle. As far as like everyone else, like, I honestly think that Suzuki believed at some time that Mir could be the next greatest thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like now with Rins
they didn't think that would Rins when they signed him a couple of years ago?
I think they did as well. It's just they've had to wait.
I don't think they're playing it safe. I think it's actually the opposite, Dennis. And here's what it is. They're basically just know they can't beat Marquez. So they're just throwing darts at the dartboard trying to catch lightning in a bottle. They're just hoping to get, a Maverick before they change the tires.
Except for HRC, who played it safe with
right.
Jorge
HRC is
stealing.
playing it safe.
Yeah.
But look at what everyone else is doing. They're just they're hoping to catch lightning. Mir is an example of, let's just try to catch the guy on the upswing when we can steal him, and let's make sure we don't accidentally have happen what happened with Maverick, which was Yamaha takes him as soon as he proves he's a winner. And then
how long is Mir's contract?
3 years, and they have a matching clause. So it's essentially a 4-year contract, because it's a 3-year contract with a match.
Yeah, so I mean, if anyone is the poster child for not playing it safe, it's Suzuki, because their 2 riders next year in GP are ridiculously less experienced than most of the other factory teams.
Probably going to be the youngest team in the grid next year.
Right.
I mean, as far as experience.
Elation, Yanone. Wait, who's on the other? Well, Pole and Zarco is still considerably more experienced.
The youngest, you could think maybe, Hafizh and Oliveira on the KTM satellite squad.
Yeah, that's probably the youngest team.
The youngest team, or Quadraro and Morbidelli on the Sepang International Circuit team.
Morbidelli's got to be a few years older, because he came not through the classic Moto3, Moto2. So I'd have to look up his age. But Dennis, this question is a good transition, though. So I don't want to deb this entire episode, even though I gave Kenneth free reign to do that.
Kenneth?
Yeah.
Did I?
That's what I heard.
Did I just combine Dennis and Kevin?
Yeah, Kenneth.
Kevin got free reign.
No, it would have been Devin. Would have been the appropriate portmanteau, but whatever. That's so Euro, yo.
So Euro. All right. No, I want to transition to the light at the end of the tunnel for all this. We're the fans, right? I feel like we're a lot of this nostalgia-based melancholy now of looking back and seeing how the before is better than now is self-inflicted. So I want to talk about essentially the light at the end of the tunnel. I want to talk about what's hopeful for the coming years. And the transition that I have is Zarco at KTM. So that's my number one pick for it. It fits exactly what Kev just said as it's someone throwing darts, trying to get the next greatest thing that could potentially beat Marc Marquez. But I mean, Zarco did amazing last year, did amazing this year maybe I shouldn't say amazing, right? He's almost matched what Dovizioso and Crutchlow were able to do on a Tech 3 bike.
Yeah.
While also being on a machine that is now on a downslope, right? Like, I honestly think that Zarco got a downgrade when he got the 2017 M1 compared to the 2016 M1.
Right.
And he's still able to now get another podium, and got good results. So KTM threw a dart, tried to find the Marquez beater, and they're probably going to get they're going to get a more talented rider than Bradley Smith. So that is my first light at the end of the tunnel pick.
I mean, in terms of a light at the end of the tunnel, I mean, Pecco, I think, is one that has the skills. He won on the Mahindra. He won the Moto2 title on a factory Ducati. I think he's young enough to adapt directly to it. He's going to learn GP through the nuances of Ducati. I think I've said this a million times. I want them to I don't want to nullify his contract or give him a factory bike right away or switch his position with Miller, but Pecco needs to be fast-tracked, and for me, he's a huge light at the end of the tunnel for the series, and I think he represents kind of like he represents nostalgia, but in like a new way. He just kind of like because he's not actually one of the old riders. Pecco is the first world champion fostered by the VR46 Academy. He is the poster boy for the re-emergence of Italians in Moto2 and MotoGP after kind of a down period for a while. He's connected to Valentino Rossi in the sense that there's nostalgia, but he's his own person, his own character on his own path. He can connect to your nostalgia of the old days, but being like a new, bright, shiny, interesting, view forward. For me, he's a light at the end of the tunnel because he's connected to the entrance of the tunnel when it was still light.
Everything that you just described just reminds me of Simoncelli.
Right. Which, man, what would the world be like if he hadn't passed away? But to me, Pecco is I think Pecco is a major talent, and I've said so. I mean, the fucking dude won on a Mahindra like multiple times on a Mahindra. What was going on? He he cut his teeth riding a bike that had no business winning, and then he goes and wins in Moto2. He's moving up to a team that at least proves. I mean, I think they moved Petrucci up simply to prove that if you go to Ducati, there is a way to get to the factory team.
I was just looking up here. I had to check and see if Miguel Oliveira also had won on the Mahindra, and the answer is nope. Nope. They were, yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny to see them both come up and go to separate teams, but they effectively cut their teeth on the Mahindra.
Right.
And now are doing amazing things. But yeah, I mean, Pecco won the title in Moto2. I totally agree with you that he is another good pick for our light at the end of the tunnel here. What about Dennis? How do you feel about Hafizh? Do you have any opinions on him? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I know. But I don't want to say something that may sound too close to favoritism or nepotism because we all have almost the exact same skin tone. So
do it.
No, I think it was dope. It's your home race. You didn't have the I think it's his second year, isn't it?
No.
It's his first year.
It's his first year.
So to my
He's
point,
fighting for Rookie of the Year.
To my point, then it's that he didn't have that home round curse of crashing out. He actually finished in the top 10, which is pretty dope. And you could
he got the home round curse out of the way in qualifying because he literally started the race in dead last.
What I appreciated was the obvious emotion in the guy. Pre-race, like you could just see like the weight of his country on him, but it didn't actually break him down. He was able to actually pull through, get a good result during the race, and I thought that was very, very cool.
It was one of the more genuine moments you've seen in a while. The dude was in tears on the grid. Kyle had messaged me about the shocking number of merchandise that Hafizh is moving this weekend, and moving it as a satellite second tier rider who was a last ditch effort after the guy that was supposed to be there had a weird illness. Hafizh is the light at the end of the tunnel, not because of who he is, but what he represents, which is a paradigm shift in where MotoGP is based. One of the things that we've seen, for the past 20 years of MotoGP is, if you watched, I came in on the tail end of like the American wave and the American Australian, right? Like the Anglo wave of people running it. And we rode the four-stroke wave of Valentino winning, but the whole underline was like the Spanish Armada growing and the slow Spanish takeover of MotoGP. And we saw it with 4 races in Spain. I think Danny Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo, Marc Marquez, kind of like there was this whole just massive, people complained about the shocking number of Spanish riders. It was all earned. Spain was putting their money and effort into growing it. But what Hafizh for me represents is a shift in the focus of MotoGP, where the talent of GP is coming. It's a cultural shift in MotoGP. If you saw Sepang right now, it was fucking insane. The amount of people in Thailand, the amount of people in Sepang, how rabid those fans are. Like, it's unreal how popular that sport is there. And to see Hafizh get a level of support, I mean, no wonder there's no Laguna at no World Superbike at Laguna next year. No one gives a fuck.
Yeah, we'll get
right?
there.
And we'll get there, right? Like, no wonder there's only one race in America, and we're lucky we even have that. And realistically, I wouldn't be surprised if that leaves soon. Because, like, we take that shit for granted. It's expected or whatever. But like in Malaysia, like we are referred to in what they call like a mature market. There's no more growth. But you look at the growth potential in Malaysia, the growth potential in the Philippines. I even think a growth potential in return to China. You just think like it's a complete change in the focus of GP. The Asia Talent Cup. Hafizh is just a guy who got a chance and ran with it. Imagine what happens when 10 years of investment in their program comes to fruition. Imagine what happens when Malaysia, like, look, I mean, Dennis is talking about like they were going insane. He went 23rd to 10. What happens when a Malaysian rider wins that race? It's going to happen. A Malaysian rider is going to win Sepang, and they're going to go ape fucking shit like we've never seen. They're going to go so ape shit when a Malaysian rider, like there is some 12-year-old kid right now running laps in a figure 8 on a soaking wet track somewhere in Malaysia, and he is going to win the first Malaysian race in 10 years. And they're going to make Mugello look like fucking a golf tournament.
That's an interesting point that we in America take it for granted, and that's definitely not happening in Malaysia. Like I wouldn't be surprised if all the riders' merchandise in Coda was outsold by just Hafizh's at the last round in Sepang. Like
I mean, I don't even think I think it's absolutely he sold more in one weekend than everyone sold at Coda.
Yeah, absolutely, for certain. The thing that gets me is, or the thing that stands out for me from the weekend is the feed showed the start in one replay during the race, and I can't show it to you. You know why?
Right.
Because, and go back, find it, watch the replay, but don't watch Rossi get a good start and lead out the front. Watch the very last bike, the black one at the very back of the grid. He made up 10 of those spots in the first 2 corners. And it reminded me of Marquez's performance in the times where he's been penalized and forced to start at the back of the grid. It's just he gave zero fucks about who was in front of him. Went up the inside in turn 1, if I'm not mistaken, around the outside a little bit in turn 2. Made up 10 spots in 2-3 corners.
Right, and you want to talk about like why the light at the end tunnel for me, Hafizh, right? He's doing that because like the weight of the country is on his shoulders, and we're now in the era where dudes hold their own flags.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Alex Marquez holds his own flag if he gets third. They hold their own flags. They're not holding their country's flags. And I've been on this podcast. And I said I'm not big into nationalism, but in this case, like this is the point of the sport, so to speak. It's like different people from all over the world competing all over the world. Like Hafizh was in tears on the grid and freaking out and running to the stands afterwards because he did it like for his people. Now, I don't know the dude, but you know, if Kyle tells me that someone is legit, I believe him. And you know what I mean?
If said writer drives Kyle to the racetrack the entire weekend.
Right, yeah. You know what I mean? If he remembers the guy that gave him a big break, you know, years ago, and he gives him the fucking all access pass now that he's the rock star of the fucking race, you know what I mean? Like, that was real. He's not, you know, like you see these guys hoisting their own flag. You know, Marquez, they showed this clip of like Scott Redding rolling over to Marquez afterwards, and Marquez like trying to fight him off with his little flag stick because, you know, Redding dislocated his shoulder. But all I can think of is, fuck, man, you hoisting your own flag. We know you won. You just won. We saw it. Now you're going to raise your own fucking... I mean, fucking kill me if I ever raise a flag with my own name after I just won something. I know that sometimes having a little bit of a too much self-efficacy is a problem, but man, you don't need to raise your own flag. Be slightly humble. Slightly. Anyway, so my light at the end of the tunnel for Hafizh isn't necessarily that he's the guy, but that he just broke the ceiling for whoever the guy is. He's the trailblazer. The true light at the end of the tunnel. He might not make it to the end of the tunnel, but he just like showed us the way in the future of GP. And the future of GP is some Malaysian kid winning in front of 120,000 people.
God damn. They're gonna have to build a bigger track or just more stands. They have more space.
Right.
So yeah, Dennis, you can play favoritism for Hafizh. I'm totally cool with that.
No, won't do it.
No. All right.
No,
all right. We have one more.
You're
one
not
more
even Malaysian. Shut the fuck up.
How close is the Philippines to Sepang?
Pretty fucking close.
Right. The most Malaysian thing you've ever done is you watched The Raid.
Wait, what?
Oh, the movie, The Raid.
The movie, The Raid, and The Raid 2. Legitimate dope movies. Seriously, if you haven't seen The Raid,
The Raid 2 yet.
The Raid 2 is so much better. It's so much better because it's like The Raid with just enough budget to like make it good but not be stupid. Like, remember in 22 Jump Street when they're like, look at this desk, solid crystal for no reason, but it's expensive, when they're making fun of just throwing money at second movies. But The Raid 2 is so fucking good. I'm gonna watch it when we're done with this. I'm gonna watch it when we're done.
What the hell movie? I have not seen this movie.
What? No way.
No.
You haven't seen The Raid, or like talk about like fuck nostalgia. Like everyone wants to go back and watch Enter the Dragon, and it's like a finger pointing the way that's a moon. Don't
you
look
posted
at the
that
finger.
to social media.
Bitch, that was not the same quote. That was not the same quote. But The Raid 2 is like the best martial arts movie I've seen in fucking days. It's
fine. We'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch it too.
All right. All right, well, let's have a premiere of just everyone watching The Raid, or let's do it live. Let's do it live.
Right, The Raid 2. Right.
I'm gonna have to Photoshop Hafizh's face on The Raid's DVD cover or something.
This is correct. Yeah, exactly. Rob, who's your light at the end of the tunnel?
I gave you Zarco. The last one we have on the list is Luca Marini, and it's not. I don't feel like it fits the same exact sort of thing we were going with all the other riders. It's just showing more talent in the lower classes, and it's something that someone that will have the backing to make it into MotoGP and will hopefully go directly to a factory seat, right? None of this go to a shitty satellite bike as a holdover or something like that, right? No one's gonna if Luca Marini fights for the title next year and he gets signed to MotoGP. Well, actually, he can't do it next year because the only factory seat open after 1 year is going to be Petrucci's. And oh man, I'm ruining my own point here.
Right. Dang. Dang.
He's got to do it. He has to pull a Zarco. He's got to win the title next year and the following year, and then go straight to a factory contract. Maybe replace Valentino Rossi at Yamaha, and that would be something.
That would be.
But I mean, that's what I'm talking about wishful thinking here, right? I want young talent to be recognized for the talent that they have, and for everyone to take the risk on new people and just run with it, right? Like, we need to support these young riders now, so that when they do end up moving up, we already know them, they're popular, all the storylines are there, right? If we don't do it now, they're gonna show up. We're gonna be like, who the hell is this guy? Like, yeah, it just doesn't work. But all right, any comments about Luca Marini before we move on to our very last topic?
Not me.
I mean, Luca Marini winning yes, it's a great story, and it's another, there's very few rider, brothers who've won multiple, who've both won GP races. I mean, even the Espargaro brothers aren't, the Marquez brothers certainly are. They both have won world championships, but, Luca Marini winning was interesting and cool. And it's another, like, the Italian takeover is real. The VR46 Academy and KTM investing in, like, their franchises long-term have really caught, like, the Spanish system off, caught them on the back foot, flat-footed, so to speak. So for me, it was kind of like the most interesting storyline was, like, I just wonder, like, what if I told you at the beginning of the year that Valentino Rossi won't run a race, Danny Pedrosa won't run a race, and a Spanish rider won't win a race in the intermediate class? It's pretty wild to think all three of those things are going to happen on the same season. But at this point, like, I really think that no Spanish rider is going to win a race in Moto2 this year. Like, we thought for sure Joan Mir was gonna win one, but it just like it happened with Sam Lowe's and Alex Rins that 1 year. The moment they signed a GP, their title challenge just kind of stopped. Their win, the wind in their sails kind of went out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's more working against Mir. With all the team and I mean, obviously Alex Marquez have it struggling as well. Like, it's still a team, right? You both work on setup throughout the entire weekend and find the best solution. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of that classic thing that we've seen year in and year out. There's always someone that signs a contract and then it seems like they just kind of give up after that. But
because the real point is to get to GP.
Yeah.
Real point
is
to
the money,
get to the show and be a GP rider and ride a GP bike. And I think the moment that you do that, you're done. I don't know what Mir is going to do on the Suzuki next year, but the worry that I have is that he never, like, we've talked about this before, right? Like, you have to do something in the first 6 races, or you have, like, not winning a race makes me worry that he actually doesn't have what it takes. I mean, and he doesn't have the capabilities to adapt at the speed that you need to adapt.
Yeah, the factory ride will help that considerably, but at the same time, it's just a big unknown. Right. I mean, everyone else, a lot of other people that have gone to Moto2 or gone from Moto2 to MotoGP have done very little. So
most of the Moto2 riders have done very little.
Exactly. They've also been racing against Marc Marquez, which doesn't help out, but that's slightly beside the point. Right. All right, our very last thing on this episode is some interesting news that was published in Road Racing World today or yesterday. Well, it doesn't matter. You're going to watch this or listen to this later. Apparently, World Superbike is not going to be coming to Laguna Seca. Not going to be coming to Laguna Seca for 2019. Dennis, you're a regular attendee of Laguna Seca and the World Superbike round. You've helped me in the pits considerably. Both of you have showed up and actually recorded footage and stuff. Do you think Moto America can sustain that event all by themselves?
Talking about being a Debbie Downer, I'm gonna have to say no on that one.
Are you gonna? If World Superbike isn't there, are you gonna go? Both of you.
Are you gonna be there?
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna. I mean, if World Superbike doesn't show up, I get 2 races, and I'm definitely going.
Well, then that answers my question. As long as you're there, Rob, I'll be there.
Kev, you're gonna get free media credentials. Do you want to go to the World Superbike round or the Moto America Laguna round?
I mean, yeah, I'll go if it, with credentials and stuff, I'll go. But I worry that, like, Laguna's a slog, man. Like, the track facilities aren't that great. Getting in and out is a huge pain. Leaving Laguna sucks, even though it's a lightly attended round. Like, getting out of there is a fucking pain in the ass. It's just, the track is great, but there's a reason GP's not there. It's just not, like, its location sucks.
Yeah, so I must temper all of this. It is not entirely confirmed that World Superbike will not be at Laguna Seca. Essentially what happened was a press release was sent out by the racetrack, and it didn't include World Superbike because the track and Dorna are still like kind of in ongoing negotiations, and there's some sort of fee dispute. It's kind of the same shit that we've seen with other racetracks in America, right? Like, didn't Indy wasn't able to come to an agreement with Dorna for hosting MotoGP there, and it was dropped from the calendar. I'm pretty sure that's the story that I heard. So
yeah, I mean, you wonder if the fee and whether America could sustain that. I mean, World Superbike's interest level is just so low right now, and I mean, we haven't used the word zeitgeist yet, but I just wonder that if racing in America just isn't quite at that point yet.
Or anymore.
Laguna's, anymore, or if it can be. I don't mean. I mean, it can be for sure, but we'll see. I mean, if the one thing about this is if we talk about the potential, right? Light at the end of the tunnel. We have Bautista's coming over. We have this V4. It's amazing. We have this new factory BMW squad. Can SMR finally get it together? There's things that if we see a change in World Superbike in 2019, that you'll draw people when they come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's what, and we can't depend on the existing fans, right? Like, viewership seems to have been lower and lower for the past couple of years, right? World Superbike needs to attract new fans. Like in GP, right. we've talked about this before. Like, the Spanish teenagers are watching MotoGP. I don't necessarily know if there's any following like that for World Superbike. And the championship this year, I mean, it was worse than the MotoGP championship as far as interest and storylines. It was more of the same old shit, more of stuff for Kevin to complain about and Dev about, and for all of us to dev about.
I don't really want to complain and Dev about, but it's like
you're forced
which is why we didn't talk about it very much.
I'm forced to, it's like the come down. Like, you're just like, like, that wasn't that good. Like, like, you thought like you're going to get your nut, but it's no nut November. There's a shout out to my friend. I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to say it. He'll know.
I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory, but all right.
Yeah. But like,
Terrible.
It's like we were super stoked, and then we got, like, this year was going to be great, and then, like, we finished up, we rolled over into the wet spot in bed. It was kind of cold. We didn't really want to snuggle, and we're like, was that really that great? I mean, it was okay. I got my nut, but it wasn't, like, that good.
Was the wet spot the final race at Qatar?
Oh, you're talking about World Superbike? I'm talking about GP, fuck.
Oh, you're talking about GP? No. I thought you were talking about World Superbike.
No.
It's interchangeable.
GP, World Superbike was like watching porn that you shouldn't be watching, and you kind of feel bad that got you off afterwards, and you're like, never again. I'm not watching that.
I'm not quite sure I can relate to that, but all right.
Yeah, exactly. You can relate to a guy named Hafizh because he mildly resembles like your third cousin.
Yes.
But you can't resist. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Right.
No, I mean, I let the credit card that Dorna has on file for my World Superbike subscription expired. So when they tried to auto renew me, it didn't work, and I was kind of happy about it. Like, I want the choice to renew it or not.
Right.
No, I mean, I hope that World Superbike comes to Laguna next year, even if it means I only get one race in Supersport. Just because I feel like I feel like they'll lose more fans by not having the round than will come back when they bring it back. Because that's also part of the rumor is that in 2020, they will have come to some agreement and World Superbike will show back up at Laguna. I just think it's a bad move all around. I mean, we heard throughout the season that Laguna was actually not the least attended round for World Superbike, right? Wasn't Jerez like 10,000 fewer people?
There's no way the Qatar had more people than Laguna. And this is the bone that I have to pick. Qatar, it's the same thing I said last episode. Qatar proves that, yes, this is a heating pad on my shoulder because my neck hurts. Fuck all of y'all.
We can see.
Yeah. Like, Qatar proves that you don't need... This is the problem with track fees and whether are we gonna like the old model of like we don't need the old model of the track getting GP there so we could or a World Superbike there so it can bleed us of all of our money and charge us $20 for beer and $17 for a hamburger and extend it out over 4 fucking days and all this shit. Like, if the track makes for good televised racing, that's where the money is. And that's where, because like we said, like, Hafizh is selling, tens of thousands of dollars plus in merchandise, in Sepang. And he's doing that because all of his fans are watching him all season. But all that stuff can be sold online. All that stuff can be sold on whatever the fucking, what is it, Alibaba? That's the fucking Asian Amazon, like
kind of.
Close enough. Kind of, whatever. Close enough. I'm not live in fucking Thailand, dog. I saw the beach though, so it's like the same thing. It's like the same thing.
If you want to buy something, Kev, I think you have to buy it from AliExpress. Because Alibaba is not for retail; it's for wholesale.
We should get BrotoGP shirts for wholesale on Alibaba. Who wants to take care of that? Someone take care of that.
Well, we could order like electric We could order like knockoff Vespas on Alibaba that are like.
What about knockoff
branded.
Zumas? What about knockoff Zumas?
Yeah, we could do that, and then they'll be pre-branded. With BrotoGP.
Right at the end of the tunnel, dog. I'm going to break my thing. You are telling me we can have Chinese knockoff BrotoGP Zuma scooters on our online store via Alibaba Express?
Yeah, pretty much. We just need a business license.
Everything.
let me get my third cousin on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. All right, I think we're gonna end it on that one.
Gonna get his third cousin on that one. We look forward to it. Like, $499 bucks. BrotoGP fucking electric Zuma knockoff scooters. You want one. We're gonna have a booth at Laguna in 2020, and I'm gonna be. These are speed holes. They make the bike go faster.
Yeah.
Yes. Sins nostalgic reference. Boom.
Oh, I've lost my shit. All right. World Superbike needs to come back to Laguna. It's a bad look if they don't. They're going to lose more of the American market. Don't do that. Come race here. Moto America is still on the up and up. They're building they haven't released their schedule yet. I don't know what they're doing with their schedule, but we're going to find out. The racing in Moto America was good last year. It's going to be great next year. Hopefully we'll be able to watch them all on YouTube Live or something because beIN Sports shit the bed. That's all entirely unrelated. We'll talk about more of that in the offseason. Any closing thoughts, guys? Dennis, what's your third cousin's name? We need to call him.
Pesco.
Awesome. Kevin, what do you got? Any closing thoughts?
I don't believe it is Pesco.
Neither did I.
He paused too long.
Hafizh.
His third cousin's name is like too Filipino, and he didn't want to sound like he was being like.
Pesco was just short.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just short for the whole name.
Right. Plot twist. My last name is Soriano, which is a super popular name in the Philippines. I'm Dennis's third cousin. In the flesh.
How did I not know this?
How did you not know this? Why do you think he asked me to be on his podcast? Because he knows his third cousin would do it for free.
Total nepotism, man.
Total nepotism.
That's how I got Kevin in the podcast.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. And Alex Marquez will never make it to MotoGP.
Nah, done. The dream is over. Everyone even knows. Like, they all know. He knows. It's not happening.
Oh, All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Check out Riders Law if you need legal help, especially in the state of California. Watch on YouTube if you'd like to help us out with our YouTube. The views are going down because of the end of the season. It sucks.
With our logistics, yeah.
Yeah, with our logistics. Thank you for listening on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify and SoundCloud and all those other places. Oh, check out Greg White and Jason Pridmore's new podcast on Podbean. Find them on
What the fuck
Instagram.
are we? Why are we plugging that bald-headed bitch? He ain't plug us. I know for a fact he did not plug us. Greg fucking White, speaking of clinging to the fucking past about shit. God damn.
I love it. The last time we talked about Greg White, it was the exact opposite of what Kev just said. Either way. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next week with something else, and then the week after with Valencia. Peace.
Deuce.